Okay, it's 10 p.m. Japan. Ray, is it okay to start?
Yes, please.
All right. Welcome to the 13th virtual meeting of UNISEC Global. My name is George Maeda. I'll be moderator. Today, we have opening remarks by Professor Kuwahara. We have a keynote presentation by Michael Davis. Nate will conduct the breakout session as usual. We'll have a report from Tunisia, and then we'll wrap up with announcements. So let's proceed to the opening remarks by Professor Kuwahara of Tohoku University. Kuwahara Sensei, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much for the introduction, George Maeda Sensei. So can you hear my voice?
No problem.
Okay, so let me share my slide first. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Very welcome to everybody. Thank you very much for your attendance to the 13th virtual UNISEC Global meeting today. So it is a great pleasure to be invited to this meeting today. My name is Toshinori Kuwahara, Associate Professor of Tohoku University and the Chairperson of UNISEC-Japan. So first of all, on behalf of UNISEC Global, it is a great honor to introduce Mr. Michael Davis, the chair of the Andy Thomas Space Foundation, and Professor Kamel Besbes, the point of contact of UNISEC Tunisia, and the Director General of Center for Research on Microelectronics and Nanotechnology, Ministry of Higher Education and Science, Scientific Research, Tunisia. So thank you very much for joining us today. So today, Mr. Michael Davis will give us a talk about the Australian space story, and Professor Kamel Besbes will give us an activity report of the UNISEC Tunisia. So we are very looking forward to the talks. At the beginning, as an opening remarks, I'd like to give you an update about UNISEC-Japan's recent activities. Okay. So, and before going into the topic, please let me briefly introduce myself. So my name is Toshinori Kuwahara again. So I'm the chairperson of UNISEC-Japan, and I'm associate professor at Tohoku University. So my research field is the micro and nano satellite technologies for space development and utilization. So here are some pictures of the exemplary missions. So I am also involved in the industrial space development and utilization activities as listed here in the right-hand side. So such as technical advisor of companies, chairperson of the UNISEC, as I mentioned, and also co-founder of space venture companies. So today I have 6 more slides, and here are the contents of my slides today. So the first topic is the UNISEC-Japan space engineering education activities. So this slide summarizes the scope of the activities of the UNISEC-Japan. So we have hands-on training program listed here, and practical space engineering real-life missions here, and academic research activities, and more. So today, I'd like to pick up some of these topics, such as UNISEC Academy, here, UNISEC Academy, micro and nano-satellite lessons learned sharing activity, and safety and mission assurance support activities, and international contributions of a satellite working group. So UNISEC, yes, here. Okay, so the first one I pick up today as part of the UNISEC-Japan space engineering education activity is the UNISEC Academy. So the space engineering lecture series. So we started providing space engineering lecture series to Japanese venture companies and university students, researchers, and so on. So the lecturers are the top engineers and researchers in space development and utilization related topics from universities, companies, and JAXA, and so on. So these are actually so far held online only in Japanese. So we are planning to make it on-demand type lecture series, not only in Japanese, but also in English in the future. So we have 3 categories: satellite elemental technologies, satellite system technologies, and general space engineering technologies. So for more information, please take a look at the link. So it's in Japanese. So the second one is the safety and mission assurance supporting activity. So we arranged a micro and nanosatellite lessons learned research group last year, which consists of about 20 universities and research institutions, which have experiences of micro and nanosatellites development and operation. So in 2020, the group started activity sharing lessons learned of micro and nanosatellites development, verification, and operation on an every week online seminar basis. And in 2021, the group is aiming to establish a handbook about the safety and mission assurance of micro and nanosatellites based on the research as a contract from JAXA. So in this way, we are now focusing on the enhancement of the effective implementation of the small space missions. And then I have 2 more topics about the international contribution of the UNISEC-Japan to mention today. So the first one is the Kibo Cube Academy. So we are providing space engineering education, online on-demand lecture materials about the micro and nanosatellites to the Kibo Cube Academy since the end of last year, 2020. So this Kibo Cube is a collaborative program between JAXA and UNUSA on CubeSat deployment from the ISS, International Space Station, Kibo. So which is the Japanese experiment module on the ISS for educational or research institutions from developing countries of United Nations membership. So UNISEC is now playing an important role in the scope of this program and making progress toward the achievement of the vision. So we had provided 6 online lectures about space engineering technologies for micro and nanosatellites in 2020, and we are now providing 14 online lectures in this year. So for more information, please refer the following link at the bottom of this slide. So please take a look at them. And the second topic of the international contribution is the J-Cube. So UNISEC-Japan signed an MOU with JAXA on April 1st, 2021, this year, about the comprehensive collaboration agreement on CubeSat release from the ISS Kibo module for academic research and capacity building. So within the agreements, we have initiated a new program called J-Cube. So I am very pleased to introduce this very exciting program, J-Cube, to you today. So this is to establish an international capacity building system that makes the most of the technological capabilities of Japanese domestic universities and research institutions as collaborative efforts between JAXA, UNISEC, and those institutions. So this program provides you with a discount launch opportunities to international collaborative missions between UNISEC, Japan's universities, and an international partner. So this strategic pricing for the launch service is provided up to 12 CubeSat capacity per year, up to 6 CubeSats with 1 to 3 U form factor. So more information is announced at the end of today's meeting. And more information is coming to the UNISEC's homepage very soon. So, I'm sorry. So in this way, UNISEC-Japan, together with the partners, more and more consolidating the implementation of the vision of space engineering educations and international contributions in practical applications. So we are very much looking forward to your feedback. Okay, so that's all for the opening remarks today from my side. So thank you very much for your listening.
Okay, Professor Kuwahara, thank you for the updates from UNISEC-Japan. We'll now move on to the main presentation by Michael Davis, who is currently in Adelaide, Australia. He will now be introduced by Ray Kawashima. Ray, please go ahead.
Hey, thank you, George. It's a great moment. I have been waiting for this moment for many, many years to invite one of my classmates at ISU Master's Program. Michael and I, and with many other friends, the studies together in Strasbourg in France in 1995 to 1996 in previous century. He's a very supportive and thoughtful and humble person with a very good heart. So today you will understand the secret of successful Australia's space promotion and activities. So I'm very pleased to pass the mic to Michael. Please.
Thank you so much for that too kind introduction, Ray. But I'll try to share with you and all of your colleagues my Australian space story. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Yes, good. So my story is a little bit different from most people who have been involved in the space sector, although you can't generalize. People can become involved in space in many different ways, and UNISEC, I think, is a very good example of the way in which our friends in Japan have been able to create opportunities, especially for younger students. And so if I go immediately to the end of my story and tell you that the work I'm doing now as chair of the Andy Thomas Space Foundation is really about creating opportunities for young people to gain more knowledge of space and to find for themselves opportunities to do exciting and challenging things in their careers. So that's the end of the story, but let me jump back to the beginning. And the beginning of my Australian space story really goes back to when I was a very young child. In fact, it really started before I was born. After the Second World War, the United Kingdom was interested in developing its own ballistic missiles, and it needed a friendly country from where they could test this technology, some of which, of course, originated during the Second World War. And so the United Kingdom persuaded the Australian government to let them use a very large, or two very large pieces of land that you can see on my slide in red. And the area in the center of Australia is where a rocket range called Woomera was established in the late 1940s, early 1950s. And the area in red on the western side of the country was the area in which the ballistic missiles were intended to come back to Earth. So both of those areas were, because they were unpopulated, and it's not absolutely correct to say that they were totally unpopulated, because there were many indigenous people living in both of those areas. But the idea was that whenever there was a test, the people who would normally be in those areas would be moved out. And so that was the start of Australia's space journey as really the host for suborbital space, suborbital rockets launching and returning to Earth. But the use of WMRA progressed, and the European Launcher Development Organization used WMRA as its launch site for orbital launches. And later the Americans came to Australia and also used WMRA to test some of its launch vehicles. Now, I live in Adelaide, which is about 600 kilometers directly to the south of WMRA. But my father had his whole career working on defense-related projects, including at WMRA. So my connection to all of this goes back right to my early childhood. In 1967, we built, and when I say we, it certainly wasn't me. I was still I was a 16-year-old student at school. But in 1967, Australia was the third country in the world to design, build, test, and successfully launch its own satellite. And this was a major technical achievement at the time. And of course, we were greatly assisted by, in this case, by the Americans, who allowed us to use one of their leftover Redstone rockets after the end of their own testing program at WMRA. But the satellite technology was Australian, and it was very early in the history of satellites. The other really important historical achievement for Australia was that it was the only government in the world that was allowed to, by the Americans, by NASA, to be a partner in the Apollo program, and also the Gemini and Mercury programs which preceded the Apollo program. So our engineers, our scientists, were trusted by the Americans to provide some of the ground infrastructure for the Apollo program. And it was actually our facilities in Eastern Australia that our ground receiving facilities that actually captured the first television pictures of Neil Armstrong landing on the moon on the 21st of July, 1969. So it was another historical achievement that we're quite proud about. I digress for a minute just to talk about that moon landing, because this is not really part of the Australian space story, but as a lawyer, I have a particular interest in the legal significance of the moon landing. And I think you can see the only photograph taken of Neil Armstrong while he was actually walking on the moon on the right-hand side of the photograph. But on the left-hand side of the photograph, you can see the American flag, which of course would not actually be open if it were not for the fact that it was on a frame. So this was the flag planted by, I'm not sure whether it was planted by Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin, but one of them planted the flag on the moon. Now, what's the legal significance of planting a flag? If it happened on Earth, it would historically be regarded as a claim, a legal claim over the territory upon which the flag had been planted. But, and of course, the image and the messaging and the symbolism to many people in the world would have suggested that America was claiming some sort of legal entitlement to the moon. But of course, as those of us who have studied the Outer Space Treaty know, this was not the reality. And so the planting of the American flag on the moon was purely symbolic and purely, it had no, there was no implication that America had any right to over the territory or the sovereignty of the moon. But there was another object left on the moon in the Apollo 13 mission. And that was this little plaque that was attached to the lander. And on the plaque, it says that here men from planet Earth first set foot on the moon in July 1969. It was signed by the 3 astronauts and Richard Nixon, the US president. But the important words are, "We came in peace for all mankind." And that is not only an expression of goodwill and international cooperation, it's also an expression of one of the important principles in the Outer Space Treaty, which had been signed by the United States, the Soviet Union, and many other countries in 1967, 2 years before the moon landing. And so it is interesting for someone like me to look back at how the United Nations arrived at the idea that space and space territory, including the moon, should be used in peace for the benefit of all mankind. And the history goes back to the early part of the 20th century, when certain people interested in space well before the commencement of the space age debated the idea that the moon should not be able to be claimed by any particular country. And the country that was most prominent in that discussion, of course, was the United States, but also to a certain extent, the Soviet Union. And so I think we have all benefited from the fact that the moon and other celestial bodies are not capable of being claimed by any particular country. But I digress. So let me jump forward to 1995, and on the front row, on the bottom, on the right-hand side, you see a colleague and very good friend, Ray. I think Kagawa-san might be with us today, and perhaps even Clovis, so I hope you can recognize yourselves. This was a very exciting day for the International Space University. It was the first day of the Master of Space Studies program that we were all enrolled in, 30 of us from, I think, 10 or 12 countries. And we were very excited to be the first ever class in Strasbourg, which was the newly appointed headquarters of the International Space University. And I'm sure many of you have had involvement or contact with people from ISU, and you're all aware of the huge impact that ISU has had upon space education internationally, and also in training and preparing many of our space leaders internationally. So after I did my master's degree in Strasbourg, and I was the very senior member of the class, 44 years of age, on sabbatical from my law firm in Australia. And I arrived in September 1995, knowing almost nothing about space, apart from the odd story that my father would tell me when I was much younger. I had no plan or intention of ever being involved in space, but for a complicated set of reasons, I managed to get 1 year's leave from my legal firm and was persuaded by a professor at the University of South Australia that I might like to spend a year in France, enjoying the food and wine and the beautiful scenery, and just incidentally learning something about space. So it was a pure accident at age 44 that I stumbled into this fascinating world. I came back to Australia. I resumed my legal practice, but I always had in mind that Australia would be a great place to conduct space education. And with the help of many colleagues and the university and the 3 universities in South Australia, in Adelaide, and we actually formed a consortium of 3 universities. And those of you who work in universities probably understand that it can be quite a challenge to get 3 universities to work together. So I was quite pleased with being able to do that. And so the 3 universities successfully submitted a bid to host the ISU's largest program in Adelaide in 2004. And we had about 130 students living and working here for 10 weeks in 2004. And I thought after that program, I could go back to my normal life, but it didn't quite work out that way. And in 2011, we decided, led by the University of South Australia, to launch a program in the Southern Hemisphere summer rather than the Northern Hemisphere summer, which was where the other large the program is always conducted. And so we started the Southern Hemisphere Space Studies program in Adelaide in 2011. And I'm pleased to say that it has been conducted every year since then, although the last program, of course, had to be an online program. And I understand that the next program in January 2022 will also be online. But after that, I very sincerely hope that we'll be able to take photographs like the ones you're looking at again. So the other thing that I think Ray might have touched on, and certainly it was a big event in my life, was that I gradually moved, well, I didn't move out of law, but I expanded my horizons into industry representation. And I became chair of the Space Industry Association of Australia, which is the not-for-profit peak body representing not just companies and universities and some government agencies, but also individual enthusiasts. And so our associations grew quite successfully, and we we joined the International Astronautical Federation, headquartered in Paris. I'm sure you're all aware of the IAC and the International Astronautical Congress. So we managed somehow to persuade the IAF that it should come to the Southern Hemisphere in 2017. And some of you, I think, I know certainly, yeah, I assume some of you were able to attend our Congress in Adelaide during that week in September, which was a successful and very stimulating experience, I think, for me at least, as the chair of the organising committee, if not somewhat stressful, but it all seemed to be very successful. So I'm very glad that we were able to achieve that. So there you see a photograph of a very nervous chair of the local organising committee at the opening ceremony. And I'm often asked, well, what were the main outcomes? What were the main benefits? And the principal legacy of the IAC in Adelaide was the announcement by the Australian government that we would at last, and I stress the phrase at last, establish a national space agency. And that announcement was made by the Minister for Education at the opening ceremony. And I don't know whether any of you can recall that speech, but he wrote the speech himself, and it was a very, very nice speech, and he saved the announcement right until the end of his speech. And when he, in the slide, you can see the words he used when he announced the decision to establish the National Space Agency. And as soon as he spoke those words, there was a huge cheer from the audience. And we had about 3,000 people in the plenary hall, and about 2/3 of them were from overseas, were from other countries. But everyone was very, very pleased about this announcement, and they made their feelings known by cheering and applauding and standing up. And there was, you can see a look of surprise on the part of the Minister of Education. And he looked up and as quite pleased, but also surprised at the huge audience reaction. And on reflection, there probably were not many announcements that he, as Minister for Education, had made which received such a positive response, because the job of the Minister of Education is often to deliver bad news or to deal with difficult audiences. And so I think it was quite an unusual experience for him. So after the announcement, I was then asked to join an expert reference group to actually draw up the blueprint for the National Space Program, or for a National Space Strategy to be implemented by the new Australian Space Agency. And the key strategy that we agreed upon, and we decided that we needed something ambitious. We needed something hard or difficult to achieve in order to capture the imagination of the politicians and the Australian public. And so we said that this national strategy should be that we should be tripling the size of our Australian space industry in 12 years so between 2018 and 2030. And we're now 3 years into that strategy. And so far, so good. We have achieved a considerable growth, especially in smaller startup companies, but also in investment from international players. And so we're on track, but we still have a long way to go. So for me, the icing on the cake, and I use that phrase deliberately because you can see a photograph there of a space cake with a rocket on the top. And that was at an event. And the other two people in the photograph are the Premier of the Government of South Australia and my very good friend, Dr. Andy Thomas, the first Australian citizen to fly in space as a NASA astronaut. So that was a celebration when the government decided to locate the headquarters of the Australian Space Agency in Adelaide. And you may not be aware that Adelaide is only the 4th or 5th largest city in the country. And it was generally expected that the headquarters of the Australian Space Agency would be in our national capital in Canberra, where the headquarters of most of the other government agencies and departments is located. But due to some very clever lobbying, not by me, but by the head of our state government, the Premier, whose photograph you see him in both photographs. His name is Stephen Marshall. He was able to effectively make a bid to the national government and he was able to persuade his colleague, the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, whose photograph you can also see, and who has featured in some quite controversial international news in relation to a decision to change the type of submarines that we have decided to build in this country. He was able to persuade the Prime Minister to allow us to host the headquarters of the Australian Space Agency in Adelaide. And that was, and he gets great credit as far as I'm concerned for doing that. So now we have a whole precinct.
Michael, can I ask?
Yes.
Do you have some insight on how he managed to do that?
Yes. Look, let me explain it this way. During the IAC, he was the leader of the opposition. He was not the Premier. After the IAC, he won the state election, and he went to that election with a platform of saying that he wanted to have the headquarters of the new space agency in Adelaide. Everyone thought that this was fanciful and that he would not be able to achieve it, but he was determined to achieve that result. And through a a number of efforts, including the preparation of a very strong bid, supported, of course, by local industry, and also through his vision for the precinct that you can see in the photograph on the left, which is called Lot 14, which is a high technology precinct. He was able to say, if the headquarters is in Adelaide, we will provide wonderful accommodation for the staff of the agency, which has now been delivered at our Lot 14 high-tech precinct. And it's also where our foundation has its offices. So, and he also, together with the first head of the Australian Space Agency, Dr. Megan Clark, they conceived the idea of a space discovery centre, which is a modern high-tech museum visited not just by school children, but also their parents and ordinary members of the public. So in one of those buildings, we now have the Australian Space Discovery Centre. So he had a vision that for space, which we have been able to largely realise in Adelaide. We also managed to persuade the Australian government to fund a cooperative research centre into smart satellite research and development. And they have funding for about 250 million Australian dollars, 50% from the government and 50% from industry and universities. And they employ about 20 to 30 people. And that's just a graphic showing some of the ideas that the research centre is pursuing for satellites. And then finally, our foundation was established just over 12 months ago, named in honour of Dr. Andy Thomas, the first Australian citizen to fly in space, but the second Australian-born astronaut. He had to become a US citizen in order to be selected by NASA. But after his first or second mission, the Australian government allowed him to have dual citizenship. So that's why we call him the first Australian citizen to fly in space. Our foundation in the first year was able to raise about $200,000 for scholarships, awards and prizes. The scholarships and the prizes go to primary schools, secondary schools, undergraduates, graduates, and PhD students. So we cover the whole spectrum of space education. And we also conduct an Australian Space Forum every 6 months. The last one was only this week. We had 700 delegates, but we were very much hampered, were constrained by the fact that all of our friends in Melbourne, Sydney, and Canberra were locked down and were unable to travel. But we also do a virtual version of the same event. And lastly, and I'm sorry I've taken more time than I was allowed, we are bidding to bring back the International Astronautical Congress to Adelaide in 2024. We're travelling to Dubai in the last week of October for the IAC, where we are required to be interviewed, and we have stiff competition from 4 other very good bids from Europe and South America. Who knows, but if any of you have any influence over these things, and if you would like to return to Adelaide in 2024, please tell your friends and ask your colleagues to vote for our bid if that opportunity arises. So thank you. If you want more, if I haven't given you enough information, our good friend and colleague Kerry Doherty, who some of you will know, has written a wonderful book setting out our entire space history, and that's available to be purchased at that website. So thank you for your tolerance and patience, and that's enough from me.
All right, Michael, that was very interesting. Thank you very much. This is where Nate always takes over. He conducts the breakout session. Nate, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, George. And a big thank you to Kuwahara Sensei for the opening remarks, and to Michael Davis, who is one of the people that I actually look up to and aspire to actually emanate in my space career. So thank you both very much for your comments. Tonight in our breakout sessions, we will be conducting a slightly different activity. Normally, I will pose you a scenario or something similar, and we will discuss that. But this time, we'd actually just like to hear from you. And so we want to give you the opportunity first just to break into small groups and network a little bit. And then we'll come back and we'll have an open platform sharing session. So I'm just sharing my screen now so you can see the structure. The timing will change a little bit with this, but the first session we will go for 15 minutes, and this will just be random assigned breakout rooms. So just chat to each other. It's just open format conversations. It's informal, just get to know each other. And then when we come back, if you would like to share your personal space story, and then we'll open up the floor for whoever would like to talk to do that. All right.
Nate, so I think the small group sharing can stay at 15 minutes, but we have to truncate the plenary session because...
We do indeed. Yes, we do indeed. So we'll keep the small breakout session for 15 minutes, and then the remainder of the time that we've got on the schedule until we go to the local chapter activity report from UNISEC-Tunisia, we will use in the open sharing session. Okay, fantastic. So I hope that's clear for everybody. I'll open up your rooms now. You should automatically be transferred into your breakout room. But if you are not, please just click the move to breakout room button.
Nate, hold on.
Yes.
Can you explain one more time what they should do in the small group session?
Sure. So I would suggest you just introduce yourselves one by one. Talk about, your background, what it is you're doing, maybe what got you into space. You can talk about anything. It's completely open format. And it's just a chance for you to share with each other about who you are and maybe what you're excited about for space, what you're looking forward to, or what you think big challenges are in the space industry.
Okay, let's go to it.
All right, let's go. All right, guys, we'll see you back here in 15 minutes.
So I present my report for Tunisia. You see my presentation here?
Yes.
Okay.
You have 10 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you. So hello everybody. I present my what we work on UNISEC-Tunisia and connection with other UNISEC activities. So I was in the first UNISEC global meeting in Tokyo in 2013, and I present the idea to develop in this time UNISEC-Tunisia and other activities. So in Tunisia, we don't have an agency, but we have a higher instance of coordination called National Commission or Committee for Outer Space Affairs, where this committee, we found the ministries, different ministries. The president is the Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research. We found some universities and experts. I am member of this committee, and some agencies, that's Agency of Frequency, Meteorology, and Remote Sensing. In Tunisia, we have also some international agencies or representation. For example, the Observatoire, Sarah and Sahel Observatory, and the North African Center for Remote Sensing, and the Arab ICT Organization, and African Association for Global Geospatial Development. Since some months, we have now an African space agency, which will be in Cairo, in Egypt, and this agency will connect different agencies, African agencies also. So when develop or when we create UNISEC-Tunisia, we think about to some objectives as promotion of national and international projects and cooperation, promotion of the alliance, organization of events, communicate and disseminate space about space, and promoting academic training. So we are a team of 10 members from universities and research labs. We have some questions to have activities in Tunisia, because it's emerging country and we don't have space activities, important space activities. So we have the question how to develop a large network for space in Tunisia, how to influence public policies on space technologies and interests, how to disseminate and inform public about space events and training programs, and how to increase and developing international collaboration. So we develop a strategy about this, and we work on advance in implementation of actions within the agenda of national strategy, develop an alliance to activate the strategy, enlarge to the different sectors, propose the short-term projects to finance some projects and prepare next steps, give national and international visibility, building a multi-stakeholder strategy, and consolidate international and collaboration with UNISEC Global, UNISEC-Japan, UNISEC Turkey, Germany, and Egypt, and also with UNISA, UNISA and European agencies, Academy of Space in China, ISRO in India, University of Samara in Russia, and of course our colleague in Japan. So we contribute to launch the national strategy in March 2018 with the ministry, and UNISEC-Tunisia was member of this organizing committee, and the strategy in Tunisia was built in two specific objectives. The first one is organize and enhance the space sectors, and with two principal actions, develop and adapt the national space sector strategy, shapes the vision. And the second, create a horizontal structure responsible for the organization of the space sector, for example, space agency. And the second objective is to develop knowledge and know-how in space field, and systematically dispose of and use of space infrastructure and technologies. So also Tunisia was since 2016 associate member in European program H2020, and for that we was the contact point of Tunisia in this program, and especially for industrial leadership and space sectors. We organize 12 info days, and we participate in brokerage in Europe meeting about this, and we are member of Cosmos H2020, which is the network of European actors in space. So we also have a program called the Fabrication and Applications of CubeSat in Tunisia, called FRACT, that we expect result. We have 5 results to expect in this project. First one, realization of a CubeSat assembly platform, a realization of a CubeSat test platform, realization of functional prototype of CubeSat, development of skills in the space technology field, and communicate, disseminate, and sustainability in this field. So we have some project, a small project, and for example, we work on circuits, communication circuits, or we develop some project to test rotation of CubeSat. We develop also a payload based on SDS architecture. We also have some international projects, for example, with Istanbul Technical University and with Professor Rostom, which is contact point of UNISEC Turkey about payloads and about water quality monitoring. We have a small cooperation with the University of Tokyo with the first version of Telecom-1 Air. We try to communicate from Tunisia to satellite. And we have also a program with the Professor Schilling from UNISEC Europe about orbital constellation. We participate in some, our students participate in some training programs organized by UNUSA, Graz University, Samara University, ISRO, CAST, Italian Space Agency. We create also the first GSS chapter. It's an EEE chapter, and we organize the Mediterranean and Middle East Geoscience and Remote Sensing Symposium in 2020. And we receive also the Chapter Excellence Award in 2020. And now we we require an educational nanosat called ESAT kit to introduce training about small satellite. We also built a new consortium with stakeholders, with universities, ministries, and associations to contribute to deploy actions and accelerating space national strategy about developing space technology in Tunisia and industry. So also we participate in some events and conferences. We will, for example, organize in next month as the World CANSAT and Rocketry Championship with other colleagues from UNISEC, India, Serbia, Italy, Canada, and Peru. We have some papers about our research activities. This is the papers that we present in our lab or other labs in space technology. So this is the timeline of our activities. We aim to move to a mobilizing strategy. So we begin our activity with participation on UNUSA training symposium in Graz, Nagoya, and Tokyo. And we meet Professor Nagashika and Ray and other colleagues, and we introduce also first courses in Tunisia about space technology in 2012. We create UNISEC Tunisia in 2030. We began member expert of National Committee of Space. We also launched a program with a colleague from Turkey in 2016. We was a contact point of H2020 program, European program for Tunisia. We organized the Tunisia Space Strategy Conference in 2012. We launched also another program that I present fact project. In March 2019, we was a committee program of European project, and we launched our EEE GSS chapter. We have also created SAMA, called SAMA Tunisia. It's mean sky of Tunisia. It's a network of stakeholders in Tunisia about space technology. In Tunisia, we launched our first nanosat in March 2021, and it was a company, a private company, and we will have our event, I think, in 2021 about the CANSAT. So this is our events and the team that I work with when we work together to develop or for training about space technology. Thank you very much for your attention.
All right, Professor Kamel, that was a very interesting update from Tunisia. Good luck with all future endeavors. So, Ray, I turn the floor over to you now. Ray.
You're just on mute, right? Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So let me make an announcement and introduce new members of UNISEC Global Community. First of all, we have new members this month. New point of contact of Switzerland, Professor John Paul Knife, and he's from EPFL, Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, Lausanne. And I didn't get his photo yet, so maybe next month I will introduce him. Then new university member, Osaka Sangyo University, for UNISEC-Japan. Actually, I didn't realize the UNISEC Tunisia have 10 universities. In the beginning, I don't think that you have 10 universities. So maybe I need to update your the members. Congratulations on your progress. And we have a new corporate member, which is called Genesia. It's a Japanese company. And the next one is the Mission Idea Contest. This year, we are organizing Deep Space Science and Exploration with Nano Microsatellites Mission Idea Contest. And final presentation will be held November 13th this year. And we already set up the venue in Tokyo, but it will be held in hybrid way because we don't know how it works in such the difficult condition of pandemic. And we already announced on the website the finalists. We chose the 10 finalists and 1 semi-finalist. Please check the Mission Idea Contest homepage. And it is not finished yet. However, we already started to planning of the 8th Mission Idea Contest. And we will announce in October next month. And hopefully next Mission Idea Contest and it's a global meeting, we can organize it in Istanbul in Turkey. Hopefully in person. So the next announcement is launch opportunities of ISS deployment. As you might know, Kibo Cube 7th round application is open now. And this is free launch opportunity for 1U CubeSat. The application deadline is the end of December this year. And the JAXA will launch a new program called J-Cube. I think I will give the Miyata Sensei. Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. So can you explain about that?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Kiku Miyata from UNISEC-Japan. Today I will inform you about the new discounted launch opportunity. Now we are preparing this JQ program under JAXA's contract as Professor Kuwahara introduced in the opening remarks. We plan to arrange 12U per year, and this program open for Japanese universities, but one category is only open for an international collaborative team. So you can join this program as an international partner. So you can contact your Japanese friend to prepare this program now. And if you don't have a suitable partner, we are also preparing matchmaking system. We cannot guarantee, but we will help to find your partner. Further info will appear on UNISEC-Japan website soon. And you also can contact us by this email account. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next one, this is the next virtual meeting next month. Actually, this is the quite special one because we will invite the Professor Didier Queloz. He's from University of Geneva and the winner of Nobel Prize in 2019 in physics. And we will have Professor Shinichi Nakasuka of University of Tokyo to welcome his the presentation. And I think this one, Those Dark Sky, is a very hot topic now at ITU and UNICOPIUS. This issue has been discussed. Of course, this is a very controversial issue because we means UNISEC. UNISEC has been facilitating to build and launch satellites into the orbit. But now the satellite itself, harming the these people in astronomy. So we need to find out the solution, possible solution. We want dark sky. We want satellites. And what can we do? So this is the very difficult issue, but I think we, the UNISEC community, is smart enough to find out a good solution. We'll see. So future planning, I will introduce in the last one, the 8th UNISEC Global Meeting and the 8th Mission Idea Contest. I really hope that we can organize it in person next year, but this is just a hope. We do not know yet, but we have a right and we have a freedom to imagine that we can do that. And the other things, Peter Workshop and IEC in Dubai in October, and Mission Idea Contest, as I mentioned, and ICASE to 2021 in Taiwan, and IAA First African Symposium in South Africa, and the APR SAF, this is online. And this is actually, you can register now. Registration site is open and totally free. So please join us. And the higher education session organized by UNISEC will be December the 1st, the afternoon. And the 10th Nanosat Symposium will be held in Oita Prefecture in Japan next February to March. So thank you very much. So we have 10 minutes. So now it's time for you to make an announcement. If you have anything that you want to announce or share, please raise your hand. No? Nothing?
I'm sure somebody has announcements.
Okay. All right. So please.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. I'm shy. But you are not shy. Uh-oh. Nobody? Christian. Christian Muskie. Where are you?
Christian. I'm here. Hello.
Okay. Hello.
I just wanted to say that your collective wisdom and experiences have really inspired me, and will continue to. I really hope that I can contribute to the space community much more in future, and this is a really good sort of start to that. So thank you so much for hosting, and thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Thank you so much.
So Christian, would you be able to make a presentation in the future?
I would love to be invited to make a presentation in future. I hope I could.
What would you talk about?
Reach the high standards that you would certainly have. Yep.
What would you talk about?
Oh, well, I have Australian Aboriginal heritage, so I'd probably like to include that in some way. We recently had the Aboriginal STEM Congress here in Adelaide, where we had 600 students and teachers from regional South Australia all into Adelaide, and I was on a panel there. So I'd probably like to talk about that at some point in the future, and maybe some Aboriginal astronomy or some things around that.
So Ray, what do you think?
Yeah, sure. Please just send me the title of your presentation, and the are you an astronomist?
I actually work with Nate at the Australian Space Discovery Centre. So
okay. Yeah. You are the director of the Discovery Centre, right? Manager.
No, not the director. I'm a space communicator there at the Discovery Centre. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we would like to invite several the kind of the centers. Your name is Space Discovery Center, but the others have different names. So and then maybe we can share the wisdom to organize that kind of the center effectively. And so thank you very much for your attendance. And let's go to the next person. Lawrence, do you have an announcement?
Not an announcement, but I was very interested in the Kibo Cube opportunity. I manage a university CubeSat competition in Canada. We have had international collaboration in the past, and I would be very happy to discuss with anyone if somehow they would like to participate in this together and work on the Kibo Cube launch opportunity. That was it.
Yeah, Kibo Cube is I think only for the new country.
Okay, I was wondering if that was the case.
J-Cube, you can, I think we need to check with the JAXA, but there is a possibility.
Okay.
It's not free, but very, very less expensive.
Okay.
Can I comment on that? So Lawrence, Kibo Cube has been running for many years, at least 5 or 6 years, and it offers a free launch, but you're competing for just 1 or 2 slots per year, so it's hard to get. On the J-Cube is brand new. We're just starting it now, and it's not free. You have to pay, let's say, $30,000 for a 1U, so it's low cost. It's not free. However, there are many more slots available. So this is the contrast between Kibo Cube and J-Cube.
Okay. Thank you. I will follow up on with the email to find out more about the J-Cube. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have 4 more minutes. Are there anybody who wants to say something?
But that offer to collaborate internationally is still good.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Paul.
Kawashima-san, yes. Can I say something?
Sure, of course.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Sorry, I just want to share a little thing. in Kyushu Institute of Technology, we have made an application that displays data about the birds' satellites. So if you don't know, bird satellites are satellites that are made under the supervision of Professor Cho, and that help many non-spacefaring countries to launch their first satellites. And we had the idea to make this application in order to maybe make people feel closer to space and educate people about CubeSat space, and also maybe let the stakeholders of the BIRDS project to visualize their project. So I'd really like to invite everyone to download the application. We are now having actually users from all sides of the world, and I think I'm using the opportunity to be here today to maybe request from everyone. Maybe we would like to have more colors, more nations on the list of users that we have on the application. We're already present in 4 out of 5 continents, and we have 23 countries already, around 60% that are non-spacefaring. So yes, so I'll just share the link on the chat. Is it okay, Kawashima-san?
Sure.
Thank you.
I would like to announce that Fad, who is a student at QTech, is completing this month his 2-year program to get a master's degree. So Fad, congratulations.
Thank you so much, Sensei. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so we have 2 more minutes. It's a last chance.
Thank you very much.
Okay. You sure? Miyata-san?
Hi.
I think this is your first time. What do you think about this committee, this meeting?
Not first time, but
Really?
twice was third or something.
Okay. Maybe I think you should show your face and say hello to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So then I'll take your photo.
So who is Miyata-san?
Miyata-san, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Kiku Miyata from UNISEC-Japan, and I'm now in charge of the JCube program, and I'm an associate professor of the major university in Japan, and I run my own laboratory related to the small satellite development. Thank you.
So I'm very, very glad to have a female professor. Yay! It's very, very far to 50-50, but this is a very important step. So I really appreciate your effort to become a professor. And I really want to support you. And so just relax.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and nice to meet you.
So, well, in this community, can you see the still male dominate? We need more female participants. So please enroll more female. And if you if you have female friends or colleagues, please tell them to join us. Okay. So thank you very much. And in next month, as I said, we'll discuss dark sky, lost dark sky. So next month is October 16th, the third Saturday, the same time. Please join us again. We'll send the information if you don't mind. So thank you very much for joining, and have a nice evening, have a nice day, have a nice the life. So thank you very much, and see you again next month.